Oh, we're live, September. I think we can start.
We're not waiting on anyone else?
Nope.
Oh, awesome. Welcome everyone on this Sunday to the African Diaspora Art Museum of Atlanta and our discussion about the art ecosystem and spaces. My name is September Gray with September Gray Fine Art Gallery here in Atlanta, and I'm a part of that art ecosystem. I am a gallerist, a collector, and an art enthusiast and an art advocate of all the arts. And I'm extremely happy and excited to have this conversation about spaces and how each of you basically thrive and live in each space. And we're going to talk about it with each of our illustrious guests. But I'd like to introduce African Diaspora Art Museum of Atlanta in case people are not familiar. This is an innovative contemporary art museum and cultural institution highlighting the global Black experience. Our program mission is to present and advance the exploration and conversations around 21st century contemporary art and culture of the African diaspora through exhibitions, programs, and artist residencies. So this is a space for conversation featuring contemporary artists, curators, scholars, and more from the African diaspora, which each of you are a part of. As my guest, I'd like to introduce each of you today and give just a little backdrop on each of you, and you're welcome to share more before we start the conversation, but I'll start with Lauren Harris. Lauren is an arts management professional, independent curator, and creative director from Atlanta, Georgia. After earning her BFA in graphic design and art history from Howard University, Lauren quickly immersed herself into New York City gallery world, in addition to the growing art scene in Washington, D.C. With an MA in creative business leadership from SCAD, she uses her innovative strategies and progressive ideas to help ignite the arts community and create new avenues for artists. Welcome, Lauren Harris. Next, we have Onaji Henderson. Onaji is a partner and a gallery director of Zuccotti Gallery in Atlanta, Georgia. Under Onaji's leadership, Zuccotti has advanced the careers of countless African-American artists and currently stands as the largest African-American fine art gallery in the United States, or I'm sorry, Southeastern United States. Wouldn't that be awesome? It was totally United States. But welcome, Onaji, again. And next we have, last but not least, Karen Comer-Lowe. She is an executive director and chief curator of Hammond's House Museum in Atlanta. Previously, she worked as a manager and curator of the Chastain Arts Center for 12 years. She has a passion for the arts and has experience in museums, galleries, and art institutions for over 20 years. Karen has also worked in curatorial and educational positions in institutions such as the Smithsonian's Institutional National Portrait Gallery, the Tubman African American Museum, and the Whitney Museum of American Art. She has also worked as an independent art advisor and appraiser, and has developed relationships with the Westminster School, famous personalities, and private clients. We welcome each of you to this conversation. We're excited. So I guess we're going to get right into our conversation and start. So first, I'd like to start with each of you coming to different spaces, but how did your current space come to be? And whoever would like to go first, we welcome you to take the lead. Najee, if you'd like to start with how did your current space come to be, we'll start with you.
Sure. My brother and I, Omari, we're engineers in our background. Our father's an artist as well. And we began our business actually by renting out gallery spaces in Atlanta, doing exhibitions for artists that we knew, artists that were friends of my father. And over time, the business grew to a place where we needed to, one of us needed to leave corporate America. I was the younger and the one without the family at the time. So I was like, you know what? I guess it's gonna be me. So I stepped out. And so full time, we started really working on just in these different spaces, renting out spaces, using our corporate dollars to invest right back into it. And we then met our business partner, Troy Taylor, about 11 or 12 years ago at this point. And we decided to do an exhibition with them at what is now Zucot. And after that first exhibition, Troy came to us and said, you know what, it's important in life to do well, but it's also important to do good. And let's do good together. And so we've been doing that ever since. And so we formed a company called H&T Art Partners, Henderson and Taylor Art Partners, and we've been going ever since.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Lauren?
Hi, mine is fairly newer. Guardian Studios is a space that is being developed, and it was developed by Lincoln Property Company. They have several other properties around Atlanta, Georgia, but they have been working with DPR development, and it is within the new Echo Street West development that will be on the west side of Atlanta, kind of between Marietta, near the Trap Museum, kind of in the area by the railroad tracks. And currently the only two existing buildings are Guardian Works, which is an event space, and Guardian Studios, which holds 14 artist spaces, as well as a 3,000 square foot gallery and a communal space, meeting space. And right now they're actually building phase 2 of it, which will be another 20 studios for artists and creatives. So we have all studios full now within the first 2 months, and we have pre-leases going out for the second space. So it's a really beautiful space, brand new, available for all of Atlanta.
Sounds amazing. Again, spaces, which we need. That's exciting, exciting. Okay, Karen, tell us about your space and how you came to be.
Yes, so the Hammonds House Museum has been around since the 1980s, and we're located in the former home of Dr. Otis Thrash Hammonds. And Dr. Hammonds was a collector and a philanthropist in Atlanta during the 80s, and he built this wonderful collection that is the foundation of the museum, of our permanent collection. And after his passing, the home was acquired by Fulton County and offered through the vision of Ed Spriggs. It was offered to become a museum. And so through his guidance and leadership, the Hammonds House Museum was developed in 1988.
And it is a beautiful museum. It's like this secret little jewel in Southwest Atlanta that most people are not familiar with. So I encourage anyone that's viewing this to please go by and see this beautiful museum and look at the history of it. And the collection, the private collection is beautiful. It's my first time actually seeing some of the private collections since you've been there, Karen. So kudos to you for starting to bring that out and give us the opportunity to see this. It's so important. So with each of you, the next question is, what is your space's goal, your mission, or your purpose? We all have a purpose in what we do. And that's important to understand. What is your goal and your purpose or your mission of your gallery? We can go back and start with you, Najee, if you'd like.
I think one of our goals holistically is to create more spaces that are unapologetically Black, especially in the city of Atlanta, where people can come in, learn, we can educate about the importance of collecting culture. And also, just as important is showing the works of artists who a lot of times do get overlooked in the mainstream in regards to the art world, and also allow them to tell their stories and unfiltered, word of mouth from them, and to be as authentic as possible. Too often, I think a lot of times we don't have spaces like this, And there needs to be more spaces like this, especially in a place like Atlanta. So we're there for that reason, and working to continue to grow that, and hopefully encourage others to do the same.
Beautiful, I agree. Lauren?
Yes, so I think what we've done with Guardian Studios is try to make it a place where artists can come and have ownership of their own talent. So even with the creative spaces, a lot of our artists and the creatives in their art studio spaces work together. They feed off of one another. We have seamstresses, we have woodworkers, there are creative businesses, designers, crafters, all of different talents. And with the gallery space, it's not only going to be used for them to teach courses. One of the multimedia artists in the space actually is going to teach a monthly course where she can use the gallery space to teach a class. The gallery has been used recently with Nuestra Creación. It is a group of Latinx-based Atlanta artists that came together every year. They've only done it annually for the last 4 years, but they had a wonderful show that was curated by Monica Campagna of Living Walls, and it was beautifully done. Right now we have Shan Shi, a SCAD student that is doing her senior exhibition there. So there's the way that people can use the space is free range. It is a raw space. I'm hoping all walks of life of Atlanta can come and use the space as they need to and have their own autonomy to really showcase their art.
Beautiful, beautiful. I agree. I write a newsletter and it's often talking about the art investment aspect, but this particular newsletter, I talked about spaces and the ownership of spaces, and we have to have these, and we need more of them so that we can show the work, control the narrative, but we need to have ownership of what we do in the arts world. And I think this topic is so relevant and so important for each of us as we're curating along and building these institutions. And kudos to each person on this panel for doing that, because we need more people like us to do this and to support each other. So Karen, please talk about your mission and purpose there at the Hammons House and your goals there.
Okay, so the mission of the Hammons House is to preserve, exhibit, interpret, and increase public awareness about the contributions that visual artists of African descent have made into the world culture. And this is the underpinning mission of the institution's ongoing work. And with that mission being in front of us, it's important that through curating exhibitions, through the programming, that we keep that mission up front. And we're doing that in ways of presenting, like presenting this permanent collection. The next exhibition will be of Donald Locke's work. And the previous exhibition of me coming in was with Charlie Palmer. It's important that we uplift the visual artists within the African diaspora through our programming and exhibitions.
Beautiful, well said. Now this is the next question that's really interesting always for us in this space. How do you balance profitability, financial sustainability, and social responsibility? How do you balance that to be profitable and to be socially responsible? And can you balance that? Onaji, I'll start with you.
I think we're all still trying to figure that part out, right? Like it's a constant struggle. I think that, but I think that for us, the important pieces, I think when you're passionate about something like creating these spaces like we talked about before, it is, you kind of lead with that. And we've been blessed in the fact that by staying true to who we are and what we're trying to accomplish, things have happened for us. And so for us, I think part of that is just going to be from a spiritual space where we're thankful that it has happened that way. But I also believe that when you actually like hunker down on what you believe. So, we talk about this idea, and I've mentioned it before about being unapologetically Black, but other people live their lives like this all the time, right? So you can still be inclusive and everything else, but you just believe in what you believe. And by doing so, a lot of times over time, you're respected for being that way. And then people come to you because you are that way. And so I think that has helped us. And I think in the long run, what we'll see is that it creates a groundswell of support. Now, things are rough at times, of course, for every gallery, I'd imagine, right? So at least I hope so. So we're not like the only ones out here sometimes nervous, but.
No, that is a universal truth, whether people want to admit it or not.
Right, exactly. So I think the perseverance piece of it comes from just also just trusting your collector base as well and what you're doing to grow that base and educating, making people feel welcome, answering questions, things like that are all important to growing and continuing to stay open. Because at the end of the day, you can have all this passion and love, but if you don't sell anything as far as a gallery, then you're going to close. And so that's the other hard reality that we have to face. And sometimes depending on the month you have, that may take precedent over other things you might be doing for free. So I think that's part of the struggle that we've all had to figure out. But I think we're in a space now where we're able to do a little bit of everything. And you're also able to say no at times, which is really important as well.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Thank you for your honesty, Onaje. Sometimes we're not honest about that, but this is a real conversation. Lauren, how do you balance the profitability and social responsibility, or do you even try to?
So my space is very different. We're a partner with Lincoln Property Company. We, as in Black Women in Visual Art, which is an organization that I partner with, Dorisima DeMar, who is also a local arts worker and curator. And so Black Women in Visual Art is playing this middleman to me, bringing in the community, allowing them access to the space, letting them use it for how they need to. We were able to set the budget. We are able to set the pricing of how we use the space. And we're making it very affordable for people to come in and use the space for a week, for a month, for 4 hours. We just got an inquiry for someone to do a figure drawing class, and that's an hourly charge of $75 an hour. It's very reasonable for a week. Shan Steve, as a student, she was able to rent the space for $500 for 7 days. And so we're keeping them very affordable. So we want to see the influx of creatives use the space as they need to, as this raw space. So we should be worried about affordability. We should be worried about bringing in money. But at the end of the day, I think it'll start to happen as the space continues to open and see how people can use the space. Lincoln Property Company is very happy with how we've used it thus far in bringing in a diverse group of artists and makers and creatives. So it has been a wonderful experience. And I hate to say that I'm not worried about the money. I'm just worried about what the experience of the community is getting.
That's beautiful. I think your space is more relevant for the artists as an incubator for artists and creatives to come. And the artists need affordable spaces. Sure. They need a place to go to be creative when they can't afford their own studio. So that's what you're doing is beautiful. And I think that is sustainable long-term. I think that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Karen?
Yes, I would say it's an ever evolving challenge, for me, because I'm fairly new in the role. So for me, it's keeping the mission at focus and trying to program and, as things come in front of us as well. Like if we stay mission focused, then we should be able to kind of balance that social responsibility, because it's ever evolving, truthfully ever evolving. And I agree with a lot of what Onaje said.
Yes, it's ever evolving, but it's long-term. It's a long-term smart, not short-term greedy.
That's right. That's right.
And it's about integrity, because we're doing something we truly love. And as respect for the art ecosystem and the artist, and trying to build this awareness and educate your audience, it's hard to find a balance sometimes, because there's bills that have to be paid and you want a profit.
Right.
But I think long-term, it's just something you have to constantly work on. As a gallerist as well, and a curator, and just an art advocate, that's something I deal with every week. But it's on the spiritual aspect, Onaje, I'm glad you brought that up. I know, and I'm thinking, okay, you brought me this far, and I know you're going to continue to lead me and guide me. And let me just do the best that I can do in my space, reflecting my artists, reflecting the true spirit of why I opened this gallery as a space for collectors and for my community, and stick to, my mission. And over time, that will grow and it will sustain itself, and it'll be a constant, it'll be something that's just not in and out. You're part of the community, and you're able to grow, but it's always evolving. So each of you made true statements that I really agree with and appreciate. It kind of goes into the next two things: challenges and successes. So we don't have 3 hours to talk about the challenges, But let's briefly so our audience understands, because sometimes they don't understand in our spaces the challenges we go through. So we'll start with you. Challenges and successes, Onaje, for you.
I think the hardest thing about the gallery business is the fact that you start at zero every month, meaning like you can have the best month last month, but if you don't sell work in the next 2 months, it could all be over. Like it's like, and you have to almost ignore that piece of it. I think, and part of it as well is even trying to understand that I might personally love a work, but if the market is not responding to the work, I can do as much as I possibly can. But every space on your walls is real estate, and so if it's not selling and it's not moving, what are we doing here? Like, and so it's the constant need for either creativity to either invest more money into the space, into the artist, into PR, whatever you have to do. All those things become challenges, especially when the work is not moving. So there's risk involved every single month, right? Like you said before, September. But I think that the wins come in where, someone walks in and says, "Hey, I heard about you all, and I need to get my whole house done." And you're like, "I don't know where this came from." Well, I know where it came from, but the idea though is that like, it's a constant reaffirmation that I'm supposed to be, and we're supposed to be doing this, right? So like when it looks like things are looking really, really bad, or those challenges come about, it's the counter that makes it all worth it. So, and I guess like the ebb and flow of the business in general, I'm fortunately, or I'm praying that we're now past a lot of those lows, and we're seeing more highs now. But I think that that piece of it is seeing the way you actually have an impact on individuals who come to the space, who come to the gallery, how you affect the highs are affecting artists' lives, watching their lives change based off the work that you're doing. And then watching young people come in the gallery, especially for us, we work with a lot of children as well, and just seeing how you can change a life in a matter of minutes, and the amount of exposure and what that does for them, and kind of recreating narratives about, galleries being in some circles, you'll see galleries are for white people, or the changing all those narratives that are incorrect, right, and getting more interested in pushing the culture in general forward. I think that's the real win. And when you see it, you feel good. It's like, okay, this is why I'm doing this.
And I'll add to that, when someone comes in your space, Onaje, and they see this amazing Black man have this amazing gallery showing art and talking about it, this is something as a young person, they probably have never seen. Right. And this is like, oh, this is incredible. This is, someone that is showing work from, African-American artists. And I've never seen this before. So that's success right there, because this is something children maybe have never seen before.
Right. And adults. Right.
Yes. So that right there is a success. That gives them an idea. Okay, this space is not just for the major European institutions and museums or galleries. We actually can be in this space too.
Right.
And it gives them appreciation and awareness. Then it makes them think, okay, what else is there that's not open to me, or the opportunities that I don't know about? So that alone to me is a success, when they come into your space and see you in your space. I think that's
right. Thank you. Yeah, that, and I think that's for all of us on this panel. When I think every day we're kind of up against these ideas, and so in an attempt to restructure or correct those things, I think that's also very important. Just changing the narrative in general. Yeah. That's also a win.
It is. Lauren, your challenges and successes. I know you all are still new.
No, there's challenges though.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the challenge I'm seeing is because we are not the owner of the space. We have to go through a corporation we have, a senior account manager that, oversees however many spaces in Atlanta. Then we have to go through certain channels when we want this for the space. We would like to have this for the space. There's so many, it's bureaucratic. It's there's levels to it. And so we're the P, that has to say, hey, we really want this for this art space, and working with an organization who is still learning the importance of the arts in Atlanta, we are fighting an uphill battle. But I always tell my partner this, and anybody that I speak with, is I'm happy to be that middleman. I'm happy to go to battle for the arts of Atlanta, but I have to prove that this is a vital need for the city of Atlanta, and I'm willing to do that. And so that is the challenge of showing this organization, hey, you partnered with me to manage the space. Let me manage it how I see fit, and also let it be prosperous for the city of Atlanta, for the artists of Atlanta. So that is a challenge that we're in right now, working with a corporation who is unfamiliar with our territory. But the success, I feel, was when we had our first show called Drop a Pin. It was where an artist can come in and just hang their work. We provided different forms of pins and different things that they can hang on the wall. An artist would walk in with maybe their print photography. Some people had actual canvases, and however they wanted to hang, they just filled the wall. They walked in like, you can just, all you had to do was sign in, take something to hang it up with, and they just felt such pride in just having, like, we just did like an eye line to where, just to make it so obviously it's neat because it's a gallery space still, right? But having them show, like, hey, choose a wall, choose a space, arrange it how you want. They felt such pride in having that autonomy to just show their work. And most of them haven't had their work in a gallery space so they can have pictures to go on their Instagram or their website. I mean, they were in there taking pictures for probably that whole week that the work was up, just because they haven't seen their work on a wall that was that well lit. And so I think that's the major success. And I think the other major success is that a lot of our tenants right now are Black creatives. And I asked one day, how do you feel about that? They were like, well, we came for you guys. We came because a lot of them came from other art spaces where they were renting spaces. And they came to us saying that we feel comfortable with you being here. Like, that alone, that's my success. Like, you as a Black woman creative, Black man creative, came into the space because you feel safe here with me. That to me is a success, because there are spaces in Atlanta that have caused issues within the Black arts community. And there's almost like an effect of PTSD going on right now, just how they've managed and worked with artists, Black artists in Atlanta. So if I can be the face of an art space where an artist can feel safe, that is another major success.
That's beautiful. And artists do want to feel safe. And that has to be a warm and satisfying feeling to be able to provide that and hear their appreciation and gratitude.
Yes.
Because that's what artists really want. They want their work appreciated, and they want the gratitude for the hard work that they do, because it is so hard. So thank you for that. Karen, talk about, I know you're still new at the Hammond House, but you've been in this art world for 20 years, but your challenges and successes, I guess, being in a museum institution now are, I'm sure, quite different than your other institutions you've worked with before. Describe that for us.
I think one of the challenges that I've experienced is just internal and external education about the museum itself, and the kind of information that we wanted, to have the public come in and understand that we are a museum and what that means, because we're located in this house. And so that educational piece is something that I'm really focused on, and hoping that we can start to build repeat visitors. Like, for me, just being so new, what I've loved seeing so far is just like, we started a family day, and I've loved seeing these families come to the museum. We would draw them in with programming, a general programming, like a story time or a poetry. And then they would also have access to the art museum. And so through these creative ways of trying to educate these different audiences, I think that's been something that's kind of been a challenge. It's just, it's important to me to have just diverse groups of people come through the doors and appreciate the programming that we're offering. And so that's one of the challenges. But the success for me really is for when people are asking, well, when are you going to do this program again? Because I want to come back, just to see people come back and experience the shows or the programs or what have you, or become a member even, those are successes. I consider those to be successes.
And they are to engage the community and, like you said, a diverse group of people.
Right. It's important, because there's so many people in Atlanta, and Atlanta is, as of today, still a Black city, majority Black city, but it's important that, I'm seeing different kinds of people come as visitors, so that we can grow our audiences.
I think that's beautiful. I think that's true. Well, my next question is long-term, and this kind of goes in terms of your vision and goals for your spaces. Now, what are your long-term visions and goals? And I'll go back to you, Anaji. What do you see in the future? What are your goals going forward, or your vision for your space moving forward?
One is to stay open. I mean, got a curveball. That curveball was a pandemic. You just don't want another one of those. I think part of it too is creating more relationships with galleries. September, you and I talked about that a lot.
We need to work on that.
Exactly. And I think
I'm committed to doing that. I believe in collaboration, and we've got to figure that out.
It's so important. And the other piece of it is that, and becoming more of a voice, I would even say in regards to this idea that, so we have the Hammons House, for example, and the connection with the museum to encourage more writers to get involved. So we create our own system. I think we rely a lot on this traditional side that we just talked about, not trying to be like, but we rely a lot on them to inform us on what's supposed to happen in our spaces. And so I think that I would like to see that somewhat change in the future. And I would like to see us on this panel kind of lead that change. But also really, I also have this conversation about what corporations are doing right now. And, ever since George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, this money they're talking about putting back into our communities. And I think that from that, I would like to see us use that money to grow our space, grow our platforms, and really, in a way, it's funny how you can take something like that and really, because one of the main problems that most galleries and institutions have is capital, right? And so being able to use this capital now for the betterment of pushing the culture forward, and so I think that I see that being something that we're gonna continue to go after and work for as well. So in the near future, growing a gallery, of course, by the artists, but also the collector groups, and then also creating more opportunities for education. I really want to grow out our work that we do with young people. We've been doing that for years now, and part of our passion is that, and working with young people and show them the space and help them understand some things at an early age, so we can also then create the next collectors at a young age. I know Lauren can even attest to some of the students that we've all seen come through these spaces where, in a matter of an hour, you can literally change a student from saying this is some BS out loud to at the end of that saying, when I get some money, I want to buy this piece. And so what you can change and what you can affect. So you do what you can in your space, but I think that we all should be doing something. I think that the communal, when you're African American and in a space like this, there is a responsibility that you have, and you can't ignore. It's not just to sell art. The idea now becomes it's more about community as well, and creating these spaces that we can come in, feel comfortable, learn more, have conversations, and even things that also affect the community in general. That we can host those types of things as well. So just to do more of that and be here as a place for that where that can be done.
I agree. Well said. Lauren, for your long-term goals and your visions for your space?
Yeah, I do. It's interesting because with this gallery space and this artist space, in the mind of, the corporation, they see it as a temporary space. Maybe 3 years, if less. I mean, 3 to 5 years, if even. So I think our goal is to really show the importance of what the space can be for Atlanta, and to make it a viable and staying space. So our long-term goals are to really connect with the school systems in Atlanta, with the AUC students, with SCAD students, with Georgia State, Emory students, use this space as an exhibition space or as a teaching space for curatorial programs, museum studies programs, art history programs, and also have the artists in the space work with the community as well, for them to bring in their own entities and their own communities to access it. Long term is also, my partner and I have been thinking about bringing in other art spaces and other curators from outside of Atlanta to really amplify what Atlanta has here, but bring national recognition or national voices to that space. And so we've invited some Black gallerists from around the nation to come in over the next year. And they are excited about having this blank space to work in. And so we're really trying to really bridge out, but also bridge in within our community. So we're just trying to create more opportunities for people to show their work and use it.
Beautiful. I love it. Karen, visions and goals for the Hammons House.
So many. But my main objective is to make people aware of Hammons House in and outside of Atlanta. I feel like Hammons House should be a destination. And so through the programming and exhibitions that we do moving forward, I'm hoping to bring more attention to the museum so that it's considered a destination for people in the arts. And, you know, one of those places where if you come into Atlanta, you feel like you have to stop by before you leave to see what's happening there. So it's lofty, but that's my objective.
That's not too lofty. That makes sense to me. I think with each of us, we should be a destination. There should be a group of the African-American community, whether it's the institutions, it's the galleries, these educational spaces for people to come and make it a destination. Like you said, when we come to Atlanta, we've got to go to the Hammond House or the Zuccott or to September Great Art Gallery, because there's this great collective of arts energy going on here. There's great, artists, there's these educational places, there's these museum spaces, and they're actually doing some creative things and wonderful things in Atlanta. And often people don't associate Atlanta with the arts.
That's right.
They really don't. They think of Atlanta, okay, we'll see Martin Luther King, maybe the world of Coca-Cola, maybe the Jimmy Carter Center, but they don't think of Black art when they think about Atlanta. And there's so much to offer. So that's not a lofty goal. I think we need to be on a national platform and be able to find ways to get out there and reach out and let them know we've got some great creative spaces here and we're doing some remarkable things with art education and the artists and working in our spaces, and we're working together. So I think that's something that we should continually work on and supporting each other, because these are just great opportunities for all of us to really pull our resources together and share and work together in a collaborative effort. So the last question is, what's coming up? Upcoming events, programming. So I'll let each of you tell me about your events that are coming up and programming, and also give the audience your location again in case they're not aware of where you're located, but anything that's coming up for our audience to know and to be able to check out in this next, if you just want to say the next show or next event, or you can give us your programming year. But Anaji, I'll start with you. Something we can look forward to.
So because of COVID, we haven't had an exhibition since 2020.
How responsible of you, as I'll say.
And that's been a challenge in regards to just making sure that we have things that are available. But we are going to do something in December. We typically have done a favorite things exhibition. We're by appointment only now. I think actually going forward, we're going to stay that way for most of the week, and maybe possibly add some hours once we figure out what's really going on with this with COVID. We thought we were through it all, and then I caught it, and then I realized, oh, it's not over yet. So I think that we're going to take our time in opening, but we will be doing something like that in December. We're working on just trying to finalize the date now. With our location, we have to make sure what's happening over at the stadium before we can actually do anything in regards to an opening night. But we're going to be doing that in the near future. And, you know, the issue that we, you know, the things that we're talking about now and trying to be able to figure out different ways of doing things, we're looking to add some virtual components to what we're doing as well for some like the art tastings or things like that that we do in the gallery already. So we can kind of grow that in the meantime. The gallery is located at the corner of Centennial Olympic Park Drive and Chapel Street. We're at 100 Centennial Olympic Park Drive. We're right down from the CNN Center on Centennial Olympic Park Drive. We're by appointment only. You can give us a call and someone will schedule an appointment for you to come by and check out the work. And when we say schedule an appointment, we don't mean it's nothing formal. You can feel free to come on out. You can even tell us what music you want to listen to when you come, and we'll have that going for you. And but we do keep it limited. And even for the opening, we're going to make sure that it's going to be a certain number of people in at a time, kind of do a delayed entry, just to make sure everyone still stays safe.
Wonderful. And I'll add that it's a welcoming space. So please make sure you visit. Anything particular on the parking? Should people be aware of parking? Because I know there's a lot going on in your area now. How is parking coming to your gallery?
Oh, it's still really good. We so for events, we so you know we have a parking garage, and then we're probably one of the last few places in the city where there's still free street parking available. So a lot of that is still that's still easy for us. I will say this though, it's still Atlanta. So in that parking garage, be safe in regards to break-ins. But what I can say, for every event, we always have a police officer inside of the garage for that. But you know, with Atlanta being Atlanta right now, we err on safety for everything, just being downtown. So street parking is available as well as parking in a garage. And so for events and things like that, it's over 100 spaces. So you're more than welcome to park there with no incident.
Beautiful, Najee. And thank you for being so socially responsible and keeping it limited. I'm sure a lot of people will appreciate that because we are in the second strain of COVID. So it's not over as sometimes people are trying to say it's not over. I know we're all tired of COVID, but it's not over. So we do have to be careful when we're dealing with our audience and being safe and responsible.
And we were somewhat nervous about that initially as well, just because of the fact that if you say we require X amount, it creates another type of conversation that we're like, that's not what we're talking about. We're just trying to keep everybody safe. So,
correct.
And so hopefully, you know, we'll be able to get back to normal soon. But in the meantime, we're going to take it slow.
Yes, wonderful. And come up with that virtual tour because we will engage with you virtually for the tastings and the talks, and people don't mind. If they're interested, I think they would enjoy that.
Right. Thank you.
So that would be beautiful. Thank you. Lauren, what's up for you in your space coming up? And what can we do to engage with you?
Well, what's coming up? Well, currently there's a scattered in there until the 17th. Shortly after that, one of our tenants, Madeline Berry, is doing a paint and sip on December 10th. You can buy tickets from her Instagram there. It's only a 3-hour class, paint and sip on December 10th. And then there is going to be an exhibition by a local creative that'll include some furniture and a kind of an activation space for a week. And then there's another special event. I think some of them are private, some of them are open. But either way, they're just events. So I don't really know what's coming forward. Did somebody request a space and a time? I'm saying yes, as long as it's creative. So those are the next 3 things we have coming forward. And you can find us at Guardian Studios ATL on Instagram. You can also find more information on the Black Women Visual Art website under projects. You can find a way to click the Calendly to schedule a tour, or you can view the press release to learn more about the project. Right now, they're building out the next 20 studios that will be pre-leasing in the next week or so. So if you need to schedule a tour, if you need a lease, if you need a studio space, they're between 300, 200 square feet to 800 square feet in this next side. So definitely come out and schedule the tour for the gallery and view the next studios.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lauren. I'm looking forward to coming and scheduling a tour. I'm looking forward to that. And Karen, what's on exhibit for the Hammond's House coming up?
Yes, currently on exhibition, we have highlights from the permanent collection. And so that will be on view until the end of January 30th. So please do come out and take a look at our permanent collection. I'm really excited about that exhibition. And after that, we will have Donald Locke's Southern Mansions. It's a solo exhibition of Donald Locke, whose work is, he was based here in Atlanta, and the work is in the collections of the Smithsonian and the Tate. And I'm really excited about presenting that exhibition, and it will open on February 4th of 2022, right? That's what's coming up next, right? And then early in December, the first weekend of December, we will have our next edition of Family Day. And so that's when the admission is free to families. We're going to have a Kwanzaa featured Family Day for December because of the holidays. And so that will be coming up next.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think now we're going to open it up for questions. I'm going to go to the chat box and see if anyone has questions that we can answer for our audience. Let's see. And thank you for putting that in the chat box, each of you, where you're located and what's going on. Again, we welcome any questions. Well, one was answered, but they said Onaji just answered that question. Well, until I get more questions, I'll read some of the comments, which are really great. It's so nice to see such a range of spaces in age and neighborhoods. The legacy of Black art spaces is so dynamic.
Oh, Evelyn Williams has a question.
Okay, awesome.
It's in the Q&A box.
I don't see it, but you know what? Can you read it for us, Lauren? I don't see it.
Oh, of course. It says, how can those of us not local to the Atlanta area support your galleries?
That are not local to the Atlanta area?
Yes. How can those of us not local to the Atlanta area support your galleries?
I can start with that one and I'll let you all, okay, I see it answered as well. As a gallerist, most of my audience is actually online virtually. We all have websites. So I would encourage you to go to the websites, go look at the virtual online galleries, or reach out to the gallerist to support the artist and what we're doing. I think each of us have an online presence and welcome that, or you can always call. We're all open. I'm sure Najee, Lauren, and Karen, we all have an opportunity to reach out via email or again through the website and support the artists that we're carrying in many ways. So if each of you would like to take that answer, but that's the best way, I think, to reach out, because most of my clients, I did hit the reset button during COVID and go virtual. And that was the only way I was really actually able to stay open. Thank God, I think between Black Lives Matter and the killing of George Floyd, people were reaching out, trying to support. And I really appreciated that because I would often ask, how did you find me? And why are you, buying through me if you're living in DC or New York or Chicago? And they said, we wanted to support an African American gallerist. And I said, okay, wonderful. So I think that's the best way to support us, is to go online or to go to the websites that each of us have. And we're more than happy to communicate through that means, or even through a phone call. Anaji, how do you feel about that?
Like you, we saw a lot of uptick in out-of-town clients. And what we do a lot too is we'll take a phone consultation, for example, to get an idea of the type of works that the client is looking for, and then pull together some images. We also do something called virtual views, where they can then take a picture of a space in their home where they want to possibly put a piece, and we'll digitally enhance the wall so they can, in a sense, try the painting on before purchasing. We also do videos or things like that so they can understand texture. So we work directly with those clients to make sure that they get, there's no surprises by the time we ship and everything else. They're pleased with the work. And so we've been doing that now. The virtual view we've been doing for years, but since COVID, it's like you, we've seen a huge uptick in interest from around the country and even internationally. So we've kind of put together a bit of a way to really work with them, kind of hold hands if necessary to make sure they get exactly what they're looking for.
Yes. Lauren?
I think now that you know about the space, that it's just open and available, I think wherever you're in a setting where you can share that, hey, I know of a gallery that you can rent for showing your work, I think just mention it. I think word of mouth is the best way. If once you know about something and know about an opportunity, sharing that is the next best thing you can do. If you are encounter an artist that is looking for a space, let them know about Guardian Studios. And also just share our platform, share anything, any events that we have going on your own social media platforms or in your own spaces. So I think sharing is caring.
That is so true. And Karen, how can people reach out or support you that don't live in Atlanta, since you're a museum?
Absolutely. So some of the best ways of finding us would be to follow us on social media. That will give you a very good sense of the kinds of programs that we're offering and the kinds of things that we're doing here. And I would encourage you to go to our website and sign up to be, to either join our mailing list or to become a member, or you can also donate. You know, we are a nonprofit African-American institution here in Atlanta. But like I said before, the objective is to become a national institution. And so we welcome support from all over the world, and anyone can become a member of the Hammonds House Museum. We have various levels that you can enter and become a member to accommodate many income levels. And so we welcome your membership. That's the best way to support us. But do follow us on social media as well, because that will inform you as to what we're doing and the kinds of programs that we have.
Very well said. And we're globally connected now, right? We're nationally connected. It's like going to New York and becoming a member of the Met or MoCA. We might not live there, but we want our membership at these institutions. When we visit that city, we want to go and we want to see the best of the best, or just be around a cultural surrounding. So it's the same with Atlanta. If you want to support the museums or the cultural institutions that are here, you can come and support them and not be or live in the city. So I think that's very important to bring up. Our next question is interesting. What percentage of your buyers are of non-African descent? Anaji, I'll start with you.
That's a good question. For those clients that we actually see in person in Atlanta, of course, is going to be more African American, but a lot of our clients that are calling us and from other cities, a lot of times either, unfortunately, with Georgia, you're still in the South, and sometimes that plays a part into who feels what they would say comfortable in the space in general. At times, we've had exhibitions where people have been outside saying, "Is it okay for us to come in?" So Atlanta is that great divide. So there's Atlanta, then there's Georgia, and we're like, "Sure, you can come in." And I think that, or just a level of just discomfort in the work that's shown, that we can also have a discussion about as well. But for us, I think that a lot of it comes from up north, and maybe I'd say about 20% or so.
Non-African descent?
Or maybe actually a little bit more than that. I think also after last summer, or after last year in general, we've seen that increase as well. I think what's happening now is that you're getting some of this as a knee-jerk reaction, sometimes of guilt or whatever. But I think in the long run, I'd like to say I think that just as those who are interested in art beginning to open up in general to interest in what we've created, they're looking at their collections, realizing they're missing an entire group of people who've been here just as long as everyone else. And for that reason, things are changing as well. And so we're here for that, of course, and also then here for them being able to tell the narratives and stories the way they were intended, and not to soften them for anyone's particular stance or thoughts. So we're actually working on continue to connect that way. Not necessarily saying we're looking for any type of particular client, but when I say that, I mean just in regards to being able to just expand our reach in general. As we're interested.
Okay, Lauren, would you like to answer that question? I guess being a space for artists, it's a different question for you.
I mean, it is a different question, but I think in terms of the diversity that we've gotten in the space, in terms of showing work, it has varied. And I've been very proud that it hasn't been, just leaning towards the Black community, because I don't want people thinking that just because I'm there is going to be solely Black. I want it to be for all of the Atlanta community, especially the English Avenue community that we're technically gentrifying. And so I want it to be for us, but I want it to be for everyone else, creatives alike in Atlanta. But I love the fact that right now, out of the first 14 tenants that we have, majority of them, at least 80% of them are Black, because they needed space. They needed a safe space. So right now our constituents are majority Black. Yeah.
And Karen, for you as a museum institution, I guess it would be people coming into the museum. What is your percentage of non-African American descent?
You know, I don't have percentages, but what I can say is that it's very diverse, and I've been pleased to see that. You know, we get all kinds of people coming to visit the museum, and really, many of them are first-time visitors, but you know, we've had people who were first-time visitors who came in and then joined and became a member that day, you know, in many cases. And, you know, we're not a selling institution, but we do have the museum store where we sell some limited edition prints. And we've also been selling some of the artwork that we have. I sold a Valerie Maynard to a woman who was non-Black. And, you know, it's been really interesting just to see that all people are coming to the museum. And I'm, like I said, I'm happy to see that, because while we are centered on the African diaspora, we're there for everyone, and everyone is welcome. And so I think it's important that everyone understand that.
That is so true. I love that. And I'm sure, as you all have seen, and we've all seen in the last couple of years with Black Lives Matter, we've seen the veil come down in the institutions as well, in the museums mainstream, where they're diversifying their holdings and they're bringing more African-American art into show and reflect the communities they're in, because it's always been there. And often people weren't aware of our contributions to the art and how we've inspired artists over the decades, from the Impressionist, you know, up to the 21st century. So I think that's been wonderful for us in meeting more collectors. As a gallerist, I have a lot of collectors that are non-African American, and I always find it fascinating when they come in and they can appreciate the work and really start to connect or understand the work and want to have an understanding and a conversation around the work. But I think since, again, Black Lives Matter, I've noticed the interest and the intention in coming to support and understand it more. So I think that's helping, because people have been at home, they've been working from home, and they've been able to be exposed, I think, to a little bit more normally than they would have. So I think that's helped as collectors and institutions and bringing this awareness out. So thank you, each of you, for answering that. The next question, I don't know if we should answer it. It's a little political to me. It says, with the upcoming mayoral run, do you have a candidate you feel has the best art initiative? I don't know if you can really answer that, because you have no idea what they're thinking about. And I don't know if the arts initiative is in the foremost of their thoughts in running their campaign. So I don't know if we should answer that, or yeah, if someone feels like they want to or have their thoughts about this, you're welcome to, but it's a little political, and I don't know if we want to answer that because we don't know.
I don't mind answering it. I mean, I think at the end of the day, how I vote is my business, and if I share it, it's what it is. But I've always been an advocate for Andre Dickens, even as a council person. But his platform for the arts is the strongest. I don't know if you watched on late in September, there was an arts forum run by Arts Vote, where each of the mayoral candidates spoke about their efforts in the arts ecosystem here in Atlanta. And the only person that I really felt like had a coherent answers was Andre. He is thoughtful. He has, even as a council person in his own district, he has offered his own insight into supporting the arts. And so I think he definitely has a stronger mindset, a wider mindset, and is more encouraging around the arts ecosystem in Atlanta and knows how important it is. And he's been involved in other art spaces that have come about and has supported it. So I'm all for Andre Dickens.
Wonderful. Would anybody else like to make a comment?
Yeah, so Andre has supported us personally in regards to the gallery as a collector, but as well as we actually just hosted them in the gallery recently. But I think for us, even when we were trying to, for example, work with the young people in regards to getting them into the gallery for field trips, things like that, he gave some connections, helped us out even in that years ago. I think that the stance he takes on art, I think we understand it, we know it. And I think for me, it's more about just seeing what's been proven. I've seen him do that over the years. And so for that reason, that would be the candidate I would choose as well. Now that is my Onaje Henderson's vote. Zuccotti Gallery in no way does have a vote. So, but that is my personal opinion about Andre and what I think he will do and can continue to do for the city.
Okay, awesome. Karen, do you have a comment on that or would you like to pass?
Well, you know, I live outside of Atlanta. I wish I could vote in this election, but I can't. So that's what I'll say.
Yeah, and Ash Nash just put a link to the YouTube. If you didn't watch the Arts Vote ATL panel, she just put the link in the chat. It's a wonderful conversation that I think we all should watch.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Lauren. We have time, I think, for 2 more questions. This is an interesting question. What type of relationship do you have with white galleries in the Atlanta area? And we'll start with you, Anaji.
We've actually been referred to by some of the galleries here. For the most part, it's not really a relationship that we have.
Okay.
And so we do receive referrals every now and again from certain ones, but that's pretty much it. Not really much of a conversation at all.
Okay.
I think I'd like to see that improve as well. But currently, it's not much of one at all.
Okay. And Lauren, do you all have relationships with any of the white galleries in the Atlanta area?
Not so far, no. Mostly it's just anything with white artists, but not particularly white art spaces. We're happy to work with, independently, I have worked with white art spaces, yes.
Okay. And Karen, I guess with an institution and also being at Chastain, you might have had relationships, I'm assuming, with white galleries, but have you had them? And what's your experience been with the white galleries in the Atlanta area?
I've worked in the Atlanta arts community for many, many years. Not all 20 were here, but for a long time. So I know almost everybody here who does a little bit of everything. So I have long relationships with some of the white gallerists, and they've been good. You know, I've had these relationships prior to starting at Hammond's House, but I think it could be beneficial to some of the future work that I do here at the museum.
Right. And I think with galleries, it could be beneficial to all of us, you know, just not staying inclusive within our own group, but working with the other white galleries in the Atlanta community. I've not had many relationships as well, but I've recently moved into a space that I'm cohabitating with 2 other white galleries, and I'm excited. This is developing a relationship now with 2 other white galleries that have been in Atlanta for maybe 35 years. So I'm hoping to develop those relationships and work together collaboratively with these groups to bring awareness to what I'm doing and sharing in that collaborative thought and process, because we're all doing the same thing, maybe in a different way. But I'm looking forward to that relationship because I've not had it in the past. So I'm the same as you and Najee. It hasn't happened before, but I think it's the opportunity to make it happen now with everything that's going on in the world and being more open and celebrating what's going on in the arts community along with our African-American artists. So I'm looking forward to developing that more, truly. So I believe that was the last question that we had from our chat box. Are there any closing statements that anyone would like to make as we close this out and thank our audience for joining us on this Sunday afternoon? I welcome you to make a final statement and being part of this conversation. Karen, you're still on the screen, so I'll let you go first if you have any final thoughts or statements for our arts community.
Absolutely. I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening and for having the interest in hearing what we have to say. And I would welcome everyone and invite you all to come to Hammond's House, even maybe because many people that I've spoken to have been once. And if you've been once, I invite you to come again. If you've never been, I invite you to come. If you came last week, I invite you to come again. I'm really excited about this permanent collection exhibition because it speaks to who we are as a museum. And I just want you to be a part of what we're doing. I'm excited about the upcoming programs that we have. So please, please come and visit Hammond's House Museum and follow us on social media.
Thank you. Well, you know, I'll be a constant visitor. I love what you're doing. So thank you. Lauren, please, final statements for you.
I just invite everyone, if there's any curators or artists or makers in the space, I just invite you to come to Guardian Studios, look at the gallery space and let your mind wander. I really want you to utilize that space and have an idea come to fruition with Guardian Studios. It's the raw space that you need. And while our prices are low in this first year, I'd say optimize that opportunity as well. And yeah, I just invite everybody to come out and follow us on Instagram for any events that we have moving forward. So thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you, Lauren, so much. Thank you. And Onaji, final statements for you.
I would say to quote Dr. Key, a village market, support is a verb. And so all of us require that as business owners in general, but I think it's important that we all do that. Thank you all for having me today and having us here, and hopefully the viewers gain something out of this. But I think that the support piece is so important, and you support by telling a friend, spending, pressing that donate button at Hammond's House, going over and leasing spaces at Guardian Studios. Oh, there's so many ways of supporting. And I think that a lot of times we feel that there's only one way, which may just be financial, and there's so many other ways as well. And so whether it be time or just being able to share a word. So with that, we'd love to have you come by the gallery, set up an appointment, come see us as well as September Gray's gallery. So we just love to have you in the space. So thank you all. And we'd love to set up more time to talk with you later on. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for allowing me to moderate this conversation and spend some time with each of you. This has really been engaging and enriching for me, and hopefully for our audience as well. And I'd also like to thank the African Diaspora Art Museum of Atlanta for having this forum. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, we ask that you visit the museum gift shop online at adamatl.org/store, and also to check out the permanent collection. It's a multidisciplinary art experience that activates works by Black artists in museum collections, and also to consider making a tax-deductible donation to the African Diaspora Arts Museum in Atlanta through their website. So again, thank you, each of you, for being a part of this conversation.
Thank you, September.
Bless you, peace, and many, many blessings to each of you. I look forward to visiting each of you in your space and spending more time together and continuing this conversation. Thank you again so much to each of you.
Thank you, Adama.
Thank you, September. Thank you, Adama.
Thank you.
Take care.